Gentlemen, thank you so much for making the time to be here today. Obviously, our subject is the tech landscape and how it's affecting cricket and how cricket is embracing it. But we've obviously all worked in sport a little while now. How, in your experiences and with the companies that you're part of, have you seen that tech landscape change in the period you've been in the sector?
Yeah, I think just a bit of background about where I started, right? So I run a company called Paytm Insider, which does online ticketing in India. 10 years ago, if you wanted to go to a cricket match in India, you couldn't buy tickets unless you stood in a queue for literally 2 days to buy tickets. You would have to camp overnight to buy tickets. We've gone from there to almost every cricket match being completely digitized. To a level, I think there are still some regulations in this country where you need physical tickets. So a lot of you watch cricket here. You always have this problem, why do I need a physical ticket? But there have been states, Trivandrum for instance, where we've been able to do fully 100% digital entry. You buy a ticket online, flash your QR anywhere in the stadium, walk through and watch a cricket match. And that entire sort of infrastructure on the back. Like today we were discussing and somebody was saying, hey, do you know every time, say Wimbledon tickets go live, about 3.5 lakh people are waiting to buy tickets. I'm like, that's India versus Zimbabwe for me, right? The IPL finals is 3.5 million people trying to buy tickets. So that entire scale of technology being able to handle so many people trying to buy in parallel, that's been one of the successes of India, right? I wear two hats. One hat is being the CEO of Paytm Insider, and the second hat is I run the product stack at Paytm, and we do 2 billion transactions every month. And that entire thing has been built on the back of us becoming, as a country, becoming good at building scalable technology, which millions and millions of people can use. Yeah, and I think that's sort of with what's happening with AI. I'm sure we'll talk about it a lot. It's sort of transcending what will be for the next decade the experience of participating in sport, playing sport, and watching sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So to build on that, so as StanceBeam, we have been on this journey into specialized variables. So I'll start with that and then touch on other things. So from 10 years, the simple fitness tracker to the journey of very specialized devices to capture any form of your move and game and help you improve your game is the transition I've seen over a decade. I've been part of this industry where it doesn't matter. Earlier, the technology access was just for a few elite players in the lab environment, which is kind of getting democratized so that everyone has that access of data to really enhance their performance, very personalized. Also getting the coach access that we have seen through the kind of technology enablement we have been doing. Then a lot of other facets on the fan engagement broadcasting. I think Sanjog earlier covered a lot on that, how from a fan engagement side, a lot of things have happened. Then in terms of use of data for tactical analysis and injury prevention has been a big way. We see now an analyst in every team, which doesn't used to be there 10 years back. Now a lot of decisions which are made from a high performance standpoint are data driven than a purely gut feel standpoint. So that's a huge transition which has happened even in the sports per se. Then equipment side, we see like in the shoe where some of the things which were thought of not humanly possible, like a 100-meter time or a full marathon, half marathons, right? With the kind of shoes which innovations happened there, people have broken those barriers in running. Cricket has its own kind of constraints where you can't make a bat which always hit a 6 out of the ground. But then in terms of injury prevention and all, there is a lot being done. I think more needs to be done where you have better equipment. Like just a recent example, Kane Williams, unfortunately breaking his finger out of the game for so long. So those things, I think more needs to be done in terms of safety. Already being done, but I think a lot more will happen. And then a lot of AI and generative AI, I think in terms of personalizing the experience, and for fans also to immerse in the real game is, I think, another transition we are seeing as we speak.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we often really get our arms around the tech, but I mean, I've worked in sport since '99, and one of the things that I've seen, and sometimes in tech, we're a little bit guilty of overlooking the human element in it, and I think one of the biggest changes I've seen in my time in sport, when I first came in, I was saying, well, everybody who seems to work in sport, and hence the title of this session in terms of tracksuits, suits, and lab coats. When I first started working in sport, a lot of the people who were running sport were former sports people or maybe slightly over-enthusiastic fans. And I can remember saying when I started working, it's like, well, where are the qualified marketeers or technologists or whatever? And somebody said to me, lady, don't complain. When I first started working in the sector, it was all run by army officers. And I think that's been the big thing in that we've seen much more specialism in the various sectors of sport. But when we talk to sports tech startups, a lot of them saying what we're developing and how we're having to pitch them to the end user, we're having to bear in mind that often those people, even though they're highly professional, it's not talking about the tech in such a technical form. It's talking about the benefits, not the features. And I think that's one of the real challenges for the super techie within the sector, to remember that they need to bring the end user along with them in order to make that sale or to get that traction. And I wonder whether that's something that you've seen with the various companies in which you're involved. Is that something that they have an issue with, getting that traction in sport generally?
Yeah, I mean, as someone who likes to build, right? I'm a programmer myself. As someone who likes to build, I always like the age-old course. Like in the 90s, if you ask someone whether you wanted a car, they would say, no, I want really faster horses. To some level, it's okay for innovation to happen bottoms up. It's not always, innovation's not always driven by requirements, by asking someone what needs to be done. Because usually someone constrained in a problem can't see the solution of the problem outside of the context of the problem. Right? So actually, like to me, invention can happen completely outside of context. If you look at most industries which have been where a newcomer has sort of taken over the industry, they have been complete outsiders. Right? Like Apple took over mobile phones without ever having made a mobile phone. There have been startups who have taken over industries, and I think that's a good thing. And I wouldn't ever discourage someone who's not an insider in a field from having to build for that field. In fact, they'll bring a flavor which I think really will move that entire field forward.
Yeah, to a lot of extent, I agree with Atik, but especially nuance of sports, right, where the players are very specific in terms of their gameplay, the area, and we had those personal experiences where we thought things will work in a particular way if we make that available, but it doesn't go off because the technology was not right, but in terms of what they feel out of that, or right, just give example, we have something which is a sensor which goes on the bat, so every batter is very particular how they want to handle the bat and how they feel about it. So if we don't have in a particular way, they really don't like wearing even. It's a second thing if they really want to use and then get the analysis out of that, right? So this is where definitely having them as a partner, working alongside that, and if you work closely with your ecosystem partners, take the feedback early on, you can avoid a lot of those things down the line and learn what they are looking for. And they always not be looking for exactly what is required. And that's where, as an innovator, as entrepreneurs, we have to take some bets, really innovate on something we believe in. But yeah, some element of feedback becomes very important.
I think one of the important things is like, it's sometimes when you build something, you have to show it to them for them to see potential. And then once you show it to them, they're able to say, okay, if you do this small a change in this, it's useful to me. But if you go to them and ask, what would you like? you will usually end up in a bad place. Right? Because they'll tell you something which you cannot implement or which will never have good outcomes. So the gumption to build something has to come from within. And to customize it for someone who wants to use it, I think that's perfectly fine.
And I mean, again, because of the world we're in, we hear a lot of very conflicting views on things like data ownership and AI and all those. What in your opinions, are the big things that we really need to be worried about, or that are huge opportunities? I mean, personally, I'm a massive fan of AI used right. And in the British media, and to a lesser extent the American media at the moment, there's so much negativity. And whilst there are certainly challenges and dangers around it, on balance, I think it's got huge potential. But in your worlds and in your opinions, what are the things that are possibly being demonized or overlooked that are actually potentially step changes for us?
You want to take that first?
Yeah, sure. So because we are talking about sports, so in sports context, AI or generative AI broadly, I think it's going to be far more advantages in the way, especially from a grassroots sports standpoint, doesn't just cricket, but any sport you pick, the ratio of a player having access to coach is not pretty good. And for a sport to grow in new territories, that becomes a challenge in terms of one, the ecosystem being available and the right education. This is where I think AI, generative AI is going to be very, very powerful, where it will give me a lot of my specific insights as a particular player, kind of my own personal coach. As a fan, I can learn far more about the sport from the context I want to learn it from than few generic data points that may just see on the broadcast. The stuff which I really want to know, I can know a lot better. So in that context, I think see a huge potential of that. There are some biases which definitely can be taken care. So if we avoid those, I think predominantly it's for the good. For the good.
Okay, I'll start with the good part first. Right? The good part's easy. I think AI is going to be good for sports. And I'll tell you why it's going to be good for sports. The great thing about technology is always a democratizer. Technology, almost never technology secludes. Technology always democratizes across the stack. The first thing will happen, I'm looking out, and I was thinking about this yesterday. The first thing AGI will do, which is general intelligence, everyone will have the best coach in the world, right? And that coach doesn't have to be trained. The coach is not expensive. The coach is a camera, which you just have to give video of you playing. And the coach will analyze your game. He'll come back. He'll wear a headset at home, and he'll give you tactile feedback on what you're doing wrong with your biomechanics. So he'll say, hey, when you're playing a front foot cover drive, you need to lower your knees a little bit more. He'll get to that level of depth. There's going to be really fun things there because almost everyone will know everyone else's game intimately. So then the onus on becoming better is about becoming more creative. Because almost every impulse can be thought of as a pattern if you repeat it enough for AI to discover it. So I think sport will become more creative. Like everyone will have to come up with creative ways to differentiate and surprise opponents and so on and so forth. So I think that's a good thing. Like I play tennis. There's a great app called Swing Vision. I just put it on the court. It records my game, tells me all my patterns, how much forehand topspin, backhand topspin, where did I hit it, everything. The only thing it doesn't do today, it doesn't give me tactile feedback, right? That thing will sort. Sports is going to be great for players because of AI. There's a lot of tricky things outside of sports, right? I think generally, any very sophisticated intelligence is problematic if it falls into the hands of someone who wants to use it the wrong way. And that's the paradigm of, I mean, if most of you, whenever it comes to technology, there are two sides to technology. There's the wizard and the prophet. The wizard believes technology will solve everything, and the prophet believes technology will ruin us, right? And there's a wizard and a prophet in me every day. like what's happening about automated drones. It's very clear you can't have automated drones with automatic general intelligence, because that's going to be bad for warfare. It's going to just commercial. Like anyone could build a drone which then becomes a battle weapon. So I think if we, in the context of sports, I think it's great. Outside of that, I think we need a larger discussion, maybe more smarter minds than me to figure out what is the right way forward.
And I think on adding on to that, right, on the lighter side, other AI not so good things are like they will replace humans, right? But I think in that way, sports is safe-proof. Till the time we really want Virat Kohli to go and play out there and Rohit Sharma to play, I think AI doesn't have impact on the game.
It'll liberate humans so we can just play sports all day. I would love to play tennis all day. I don't want to do anything else.
That would be good, wouldn't it? But in terms of, I mean, I don't want to demonize tech. That just always bothers me. But in terms of the things coming down the road that we need to get smarter about now and almost future-proof against. And for example, something like tech doping, you made the reference to smart shoes and just how smart they've become. What are the things that you would caution the guests here today, thinking, if you want to be smart not tomorrow, but next year, these are the things that you need to be thinking about now?
I'll take that. One thing I tell a lot of people, don't be scared of technology. I think that's the first thing. I think a lot of people are a bit hesitant to really use technology as a tool because they feel like it's hard to get into. But I think the first thing, think of it like your bat. You need to know how your bat works. Technology is a tool to get better in pretty much everything, and obviously in sports. So the first thing is, don't be intimidated by technology. It's a bit like writing. Everyone will need to be verbose and qualified in technology to move ahead in life, right? So that's the biggest thing. Once you have the mentality of a tinkerer, I think technology is your best tool.
So yeah, I think on same, right, technology is not a quick pill. It can only help you if first the basic shield is there, you really have love for the sport, you really want to go out there and play and have the basics set. It can help you over the time from the sports improvement standpoint. From other perspective, from a fan engagement standpoint and all, it really elevates it to a very great extent just at the introduction in terms of your experience, how you feel, and we have been now getting that experiences right in terms of the sports broadcast that is happening very personalized again, right? So I think on that side, the impact is very immediate of technology. And on the performance side, and when we talk about training, it takes their own time, and there is no quick fix there.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing that I'm also quite interested in and would be interested in your opinion on is obviously, and we had a great panel earlier with sports influencers. Obviously, authenticity is such a big thing on social media and the larger messaging around sport. And obviously, with the fake imaging and all those dangers out there, that's something that can have a very real impact on it. And obviously, now people can go around and say they were at events when they weren't, and issues like that. Is the genie out of the bottle? There's no putting it back in? Or how are we going to keep sport live, interesting and authentic at that elite level, do you think? Do you have an opinion on that?
You know, funny, you always know the friend who always talks a big game, right? You know he's lying. Like, you have a group of 10 friends, you know one of them always makes stuff up. I think you're going to figure that out on the internet.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's hard to fake for too long on the internet. You could fake for a bit, but sooner or later there are enough people looking at you for you to figure out you're faking it. And internet's been pretty powerful that way for the last decade. I think that'll hold. Yes, I think the more problematic is going to be impersonation, more than people falsifying experiences. Impersonation is a bigger problem, and I think hopefully we'll figure out a way the modern age Turing test, right, to figure out who's real, who's not. I think we'll figure out a way to do that. We don't have a good answer for that yet.
Not yet, no.
Yeah, I think having the problems associated with impersonation getting solved, I think the bright side is if I can emulate using this AI on the player I really want to emulate, right? Play like him, train and fake like that, or from a fan engagement, right? In a virtual production for a normal game as well, we are creating that kind of personal commentary and that experience using the generative AI, which otherwise may not be possible with the sources. Maybe Harsha will be here later today. So kind of Harsha, I can feel Harsha is doing a commentary even for a local game because we have his voice, which can do the commentary there based on how the game is being played, and that is also whole automated. So that's really what we feel excited about, and being in this space and working to make it work in those kind of scenarios.
Absolutely. Right. We've got a few minutes, and doubtless there are some questions out there. So we can throw this open to the audience if we've got any questions out there yet. Otherwise, we can keep chatting, but no one. Fine, we get to keep chatting. So in terms of companies that are starting out, or young entrepreneurs starting out, as you both have, what's the best piece of advice that you can give them when they are pitching into sports businesses? Because we see so many people who've left great jobs in banking or in financial IT, and all they want to do is work in sport. And it's clear they've got the brains and the desire, but there's something missing. What advice would you give them?
That's a difficult one. I would say true insight's really, really hard. I would say persevere till you have an essence of true insight. And don't try to jump on the first idea you think is fundable or is hot. Because almost any idea which is hot today, you should have started working on it 2 years ago for you to be successful.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So you have to break the hype cycle. So don't jump on what's on top of the hype cycle. Think for an idea or an insight which is truly unique and which is going to be at the top of the hype cycle 24 months from now.
I'll say as an entrepreneur, learning still my own lessons. But I was talking to some other founders as well, right? Similar stage, doing the similar stuff. So I'll say if you are getting into sports, directly expecting some revenue model, especially if you are in a grassroots sports, it's not that easy. So if you see you do this and you will make it big at the grassroots, you need to think twice.
Yeah, no, completely. Well, the other one that I always see is people who come into or try to come into sport and have no connections and no one on the board, and you think, who do you think is going to open the doors for you? Because sport is a tough industry in which to sell, because it's such a small, young, tight industry. Getting into it is tough, isn't it? But yet, when you do it, it can be so rewarding. And in testament to cricket, they have led the charge so well with so many tech, and all credit to the ICC for that. Which of the technologies that you've seen in cricket or any sport where you've actually thought, that really is a game changer, that has changed the absolute landscape so well? For me, I have to say, Hawkeye, I thought was, in some respects, the godparents of sport. But I think that when they came in, the landscape changed, and it spawned so many and so others.
I mean, slightly trivial, but I thought the lighted bail was nice.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I really like it. It's such a simple idea, but the lighted bail always added such a different visual appeal to the game.
Yeah, yes, completely.
I think I pick on what you shared in terms of Hawkeye. So if that can really be democratized across the sport ecosystem, I think that will change the landscape. these kids who are playing the game, they are also aspiring when they're playing, like, it shall be there if some decision is not right for them. That's become a lot of demotivation for the players who are in line to be there as well. So if you can get these technologies also at that level, and that's going to be huge. In fact, that's where we are focused a lot right now to democratize match officiating across the sports.
Now, I'm going to close with one last question, which is, if you were to be approached to invest in a technology in sport tomorrow, any sport, any tech, where would you put your crypto?
I would do something which matters to me. So if somebody can figure out how I can serve like Pete Sampras, that would be great. Thank you. Much appreciated.
How was he?
And you need to repeat the question for me, Rebecca. Sorry, I didn't get the...
Sorry? Where would you put your money? If you were to invest in a sports tech tomorrow, what sports tech would you love to have come and pitch to you for your money?
I'm already committed for cricket.
Yes. But in the future, what's the next one for you, would you say?
From an Indian context, I think a lot of racket sport is what personally very inclined on, like working on, or other next big thing, which I personally shall be supporting.
Okay. And then finally, for any company that's looking to come and do business in India, what advice would you give them there? Because, I mean, it's a vibrant, exciting place to be. What advice would you give them coming in and selling to the Indian market?
First, I think India is the market to be. It's huge potential. So anyone who wants to come here, especially grow the sports ecosystem, it's great. I think given the kind of addressable player audience that we have, right, I think it's going to be humongous. Just to share the numbers, right, in terms of us as a sports consumption, we are huge, equivalent to the Western markets. But if you talk about right now in terms of our sports participation, which is actually indulging in a sport or playing a sport, is not a good number. And with our 1.4 billion population, that participation numbers increasing, which is currently lower single digit to even a lower double digit, right? It's going to be a huge, huge potential, big market opportunity. Other will be maybe the stuff which may have worked in other markets, North America, from commercialization, may not work here. The kind of the price points which are affordable or workable may be very different. So they have to think through maybe a brand new strategy for India if they want to bring some products or solution in India market.
Yeah, I think interestingly, first, like I would say live in India for a year. I think get a sense of the pulse of how to do business here. I've done business in I haven't really run a business outside of India, so I'm not super qualified to say how easy or difficult it is in North America. But from what I've heard from friends, it's much more difficult to run a business in India than it is elsewhere. So I think that's a bit of a mental sort of like a model you need to develop for. I fully agree with what he's saying. I think India is a large market, but you need to get the cost of product right. The cost of product has to be the absolutely lowest you can get your product for, and then you build a business on volume. You don't build a business on massive, it's not a high cost, small number market. It's a large number, low cost market, right? So build a product or a service which tackles that.
Fascinating. Gentlemen, we finished absolutely to the minute. So thank you both so much. That was fascinating. Please join me in thanking.